Hello, welcome to White Birch Tarot. Oh, I'm supposed to look over here. Welcome to White. I'm not going to. Welcome to White Birch Tarot and Astrology. This is neither. This is Weird Story Night. And for those of you who watch Gemma, she was asking people today their opinion on Ouija boards. And that brought up I counted them, 4 weird stories. Not stories, but things that happened to me concerning Ouija boards, and so I just wanted to share them with you because I think Ouija boards are really creepy, and I say that as a person who has had poltergeist activity for years when I was an adolescent and a teenager, and I lived with that, and sometimes it was creepy, and sometimes it was. I got used to it, so I'm not easily creeped out, although, well, now I have the creeps tonight because I was thinking about the Ouija board, and then when I came upstairs, I knew before I even got here, I've decided that when the big SPIDERS's show up, it's because I'm scared. I think my fear manifests them. I really do, because I hadn't seen any in here. Now I've got the creeps. I shouldn't say that. Get my leg in the picture. Wow. Because there were 2, and I haven't seen it. Anyway, so here's story number 1. Same Ouija board in all 4 stories. So we had one when I was a kid. My mom and my sister loved to play with it, okay? And I loved it as a kid. So I'm with my mom, my sister, and my cousin, and we all want to play with the Ouija board together. And the Ouija board, my mom and my sister were doing it's called a planchette, the little plastic thing that you push around. They had their hands on it, and the Ouija board spelled out that it wasn't going to work unless I left the property. I had to get off the property. And I was really mad because I wanted to be part of it, okay? So my mom gave me a dime or whatever, and we had a little local store. It was very close to us. And she said, just go down to the store and get some candy. And I was really mad because I wanted to do the Ouija board with them. So I took the money, and I did not go to the store because I was mad. So I went in the backyard and I sat underneath a cherry tree we had in the back, and I was sulking, okay? So a few minutes later, the back door opens and my sister steps out on the porch, and she sees me and she screams and she goes, "Oh my God, she's here. She's in the backyard." And I'm like, what? And so then here comes my mom and my cousin. And they're looking at me and they're all freaked out. So I go over to them and I say, what's going on? And they said that the Ouija board told them that I didn't go to the store, that I was in the backyard, and they didn't believe it, so they came out to look. That was number 1. Okay, then I don't remember how long later. I don't remember when this happened, but I do remember this happened at the beginning of a summer. I was a child, and I had 2 best friends. My best friend was over at my house, and she loved to play the Ouija board with me. My other friend lived down the street from me, closer, but she was just different. She was more like, we did outdoor stuff together. Anyway, so I'm sitting there with my friend V, and we're doing the Ouija board, and my other friend C comes in, and I guess she'd never seen one, and she said, "What are you doing?" And we told her, and she said something about, oh, somebody told her that was nonsense or whatever. And she was, so my friend V and I are sitting across from each other, and this other friend's sitting beside me, and she's eating a big apple, and she takes a bite of the apple, and a whole bunch of apple juice squirted out of the apple and landed on the Ouija board. And I quickly, wiped it off. And here's the weird thing is it left a bubble. The paper bubbled up. The liquid was only on there. It's like it was toxic, like putting holy water on a vampire or something. Anyway, sorry. So the Ouija board, then my friend V and I, still had our hand. Each of us had a hand on it. And it started whizzing around, and it said something like, get her out of here, I hate her, or something like that. And so my friend C, she left. She went back home, the one who didn't believe. Okay, so fast forward to the next day, and I went over to my friend C's house, who lived just a few doors down, like a block, I don't know. And I went down there and I knocked on the door. She was usually out playing. She was we were both tomboys, but she was a daredevil. Anyway, I knocked on the door and her mom answered the door. And she looked weird. She seemed upset, and her mom was really calm. And I said, "Is C home?" And her mom said, "No, she's here, but you can't see her today, and just come back in a few days or whatever." And I was like, and she said, "She's in bed, but you can't see her, but you can come back in a few days or something." So I did. Well, here's what happened. I talked to her mom. I don't remember exactly how it all turned out, but here's what happened. Let's say her name, Carol, because it keeps coming. So Carol goes home after having, accidentally squirted apple juice on the Ouija board and saying she didn't believe in it. And she was climbing a tree in her backyard, which she did constantly. We had this one tree we always climbed. And she fell out of the tree, but her brother had left some kind of an iron pole on the ground. I don't know why. He was always building things. She had this massive playground. It was awesome. Anyway, she fell on it and broke her back. Yeah. And you could say it's a coincidence, and I suppose it could be, but it gave me the creeps. She had to spend the entire summer in bed in a cast on her back, and it drove her crazy. She didn't like to read. I love to read. I would have been okay, but it still drive me crazy not to go outside. But anyway, as soon as I heard that, I just got the creeps because she'd said that about the Ouija board. Okay, then I don't remember how much later, because when you're a kid, we'll say a year later, I think I was about 8 because my sister was still home. My sister and I shared a bedroom. There were 2 small closets, and she had, how you have a shoe rack on the floor, not the tall kind, but the flat kind. And so she had shoes on it, so it was a flat space, and that's where we kept the Ouija board because it gave it a flat place. So I walked into the bedroom one day by myself, and I heard a funny noise in the closet. And I thought there was a cat trapped in there because we had lots of cats always. So I opened the door to make sure that there was no cat trapped in there, because what was making the noise? And then I realized it was the Ouija board. It was flat on my sister's shoe rack, but it sounded like the planchette thing inside. It sounded like the same noise it makes when it whizzes around really fast. And I was like, because there was nothing in there. And then the box flipped all by itself. There was no cat in there. The box flipped over off the shoe rack by itself. And I ran out of that room, and I never touched that thing again for about, how many years was it? 3 years later. I did, and then this is what happened 3 years later, because I was scared of it. But then I got older, and I thought, I'm 11 now. I can. So the next story is, so now I'm 11, and we've moved, and I'm living in an apartment complex with my mom and my sister. And I don't remember why I was using the board again, but I was. And I took it over to a friend's house. She'd never played with it before. She was younger than me. And so we are in a 2nd-story apartment, okay? There's a front door, there's a back door, but the back door leads out to a 2nd-story balcony. No one was in there but us. Her mom was at work. It was summer. The windows were all closed because it was here in this state where it's really hot, so we had air conditioning on. So anyway, so she and I, we are playing with the Ouija board in her bedroom. She had a dresser, like one of those old-fashioned ones where it has a low, what do they call that? It has a special name. Is that a bureau? No. I can't remember what you call them. Anyway, we're playing with it. And we each had a glass of a plastic cup full of water on either side of this board, the Ouija board. And I'm getting the creeps just talking about this. And they were empty. We had pop or juice. I don't know what we had, but they were both empty. I remember that. And then she said, let's go in the kitchen and get some cookies. And I said, okay. And we left the room. It's a very small apartment. We went, 10 feet through the living room into the kitchen and got some cookies, came back into her bedroom. We'd only been gone for, 10 seconds. No one was in there. And when she walked into the room, we were both barefoot because it was summer and it was carpeted. She stepped into the room and then she screamed and she flipped her foot up. Why do I feel like I've told this before on here? Surely I haven't. I'm having deja vu. She flipped her foot like, she screamed like she'd stepped on something, like a nail or something, and she flipped her foot up, and I saw something brown land on the wall, and I went over and looked at it. This is going to sound ridiculous. And it was a canned mushroom. I had never eaten canned mushrooms, but I've seen them. So it was a canned mushroom, was stuck to the wall, and then eventually, it fell off. And then she was stepping around, and she kept screaming, and we looked down at the floor. The floor was covered, not completely covered, but like as if someone had opened a large can or two of canned mushrooms and spread them all over the floor. And then I looked at the bureau or the dresser, whatever you want to call it, where the Ouija board was, and the 2 cups that we had left, one on either side of the Ouija board, were turned upside down, and they were not upside down when we left the room. Swear to God. And I thought, oh no. And she was freaked out more than I was, and she looked at me and she said, why did you do this? Or no, she said, how did you do this? How did you do this? And I said, I didn't do this. I was with you in the kitchen. And she kept saying, how did you do this? And just then, her mom came home. We heard the door, and we ran into the other room. Now, my friend is crying. It's not funny, but she was crying. And her mom comes in. Why do I feel like I've already told this on here? Well, forgive me if I have. Why would I have? Anyway, her mom comes in and says, what's wrong? What's wrong? And my friend says, Lori put mushrooms on my floor. And I started giggling, which is what I do when I'm really nervous and uncomfortable. And also it's ridiculous. And I started giggling, and her mom got mad at me, and they both went in the bedroom and looked at the floor, and she's like, well, how did you put the, and I said, I was in the kitchen with Tammy. Nobody's going to know who Tammy is. I was in the kitchen with Tammy. I said, I did not do this. And her mom said, well, you had to have, or something. Anyway, to make a long story short, she kicked me out. I left. I took my board with me, and I never played with it again. And here's the weird thing. Well, that is the weird thing. But here's another weird thing. Decades later, somebody gave me a book. I was going to look up the author, and I didn't. It was called The Holographic Universe. It was really good, actually, by Stephen someone or other. I forget his name. And I read it, and it was really good, nonfiction. And at the end of it, he had an epilogue where he was telling this story where he was lying on a couch. I forget if he was sleeping or if he was awake. I think he was asleep, and when he woke up, he had a pile of cooked spaghetti on his stomach that just came out of nowhere. And he said, you're going to think I'm crazy, but that really happened. And I thought, no, I don't think you're crazy, but I think it was part of my dinner. That I think the mushrooms went with the spaghetti dinner. I don't know, I'm just kidding. But so that's happened before. So anyway, those are my 4. Now I'm looking around. Now I've totally got the creeps. Shouldn't do stuff like this when I'm here alone. I'm always here alone. Anyway, so those things happened to me. If anybody has any weird Ouija board stories, now I'm nervous. I was just gonna caution people. That's a cautionary tale. 4 cautionary tales. I wouldn't play with them. I don't understand how they work or why they would do that or how they would do that, but those things really happened to me. So And I was going to do a card reading tonight, or the astrology is off the charts. No pun intended. It really is, though. And I need to do that because it's interesting. And, I was thinking I might cut that out and just do the tarot, but I noticed as many people are watching it, so I think I will continue. Anyway, thank you for listening to me babble. I don't know why, but it's just fun to share these. And I would be so interested if anybody else has had any experiences with them. But those were my experiences. So, oh, and the other weird thing is when my husband and I moved into this house, a couple years after we moved in, we went down and there's a storage area in the basement, and we had a lot of boxes in there, and we decided to organize things and make a list, a piece of paper and put numbers on the boxes. So we were planning on moving. That was, I don't know, 26 years ago. No, yeah, 26 years ago we were going to move. Anyway, whatever. I didn't. But I made a list and we marked the boxes, and we found a Ouija board down there. And I said, "Is this yours?" And he said, "No, is that yours?" I did not remember bringing it with me, but I guess I did. But I've been down in the basement lately because I still want to move, and I've been going through things, and guess what? I can't find it. I never took it out of there. So anyway, God knows. If I find it under the bed or somewhere, no. Now don't say that. Don't say that. If I find it, I'm going to be really upset. So anyway, I will talk to you later, and leave me a comment if you have anything to share. Okay, thanks. Good night.